8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Good morning and welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm thankful that you're here with us live on CKLU 96.7 FM on terrestrial radio. We're also streaming live at cklu.ca on the internet, along with streaming on facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the channel and the page. We're also found immediately following the show on demand on those two platforms, along with x.com/Sudbury News and Sudbury.news, which is our news aggregator. We made it as a response to the federal government's policies that make it impossible, that do not allow, that Canadians cannot have news like you can't have your global news, your CTV, even local news. You can't have Sudbury Star, Sudbury.com. Any of those cannot. They're not allowed to have a Facebook page, nor can you share any news from outside of Canada on Facebook. It's the only country that does this. So we made the Sudbury.news webpage as an answer to that so that people can browse all of our local news, CBC, CTV, Sudbury Star, Sudbury.com. All their stories, local stories, come up on our main page. You just go to Sudbury.news, boom, and then the show is found immediately following the live on demand on there, as well as YouTube and Facebook. So make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow. Mainly comment on our YouTube and Facebook Live. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching and read for those listening. And we appreciate your comments because this is your conversation on your station each and every weekday morning. Immediately following the show, we have a really great radio program called Earshot Daily, which features original artists mostly from Canada. And it goes coast to coast to coast here in Canada. It's a syndicated show. I am the coordinator of that particular show, and it's a really great forum for bands, independent bands, to get their music heard. And so if you are an independent artist and you want to get your music heard, you just you go to earshot/distro.ca and you upload your music. You'll get 50% off your first uploads, and then it'll be available for all of the hosts across Canada, not only for our Earshot Daily shows, because we have multiple hosts hosting that show, but for shows all across the country from the different 110 radio stations across Canada. They go to this website in order to get their material. So you'll be able to have your material possibly chosen to be on their shows, and you get more airplay, and more airplay just means more ears, which then means, maybe they'll look you up on Spotify and maybe get more of your music and whatever, and it goes from there. So it's going to be a great show today. Thanks for being on. We're going to dive in with a little bit of weather first. Then we'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after the weather. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. And as usual, Sudbury weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Currently it's 6 degrees out there. It is cloudy. Today, we can expect it to remain cloudy with a 60% chance of showers and the fog patches dissipating in the morning. High of 10. UV index 2 or low. Tonight, cloudy, 60% chance of showers this evening And after midnight, wind is the regular 20 kilometers per hour. Low of +2. Again, it's right around just above the 0 mark in the evenings lately. And Thursday, tomorrow, cloudy, 30% chance of showers in the afternoon. Wind again, 20 kilometers per hour. High of +5. Very cool tomorrow. UV index 1 or low. And then overnight, it's only +1 tomorrow night. Friday, it's looking like a 30% chance of rain or flurries, showers or flurries. But the sun starts creeping in a bit for the weekend. Mix of sun and cloud, high of 7, high of 10 for Saturday and Sunday. Mix of sun and cloud with a high of 11 on Monday. And then the clouds, according to this forecast, start rolling back in around Tuesday. So it looks like we got some possible sun for the weekend. That can't be a bad thing. And the highs will be just a little below and a little over 10 degrees Celsius. That's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, so good morning, people who are on. We appreciate you. Northern Hillbilly, good morning, people. Judy, good morning to you. And Vin, good morning. Hazel, good morning. Prayer emoji, much needed, much appreciated. And Larry, good morning, everyone. Maurice, good morning. Smiley emoji. Good morning to Betty. Good morning, people. Pat, good morning. Folks, you got your peace sign emoji. And good morning to Logic. And Belinda, good morning. You say that butterflies... the butterfly does not mourn its caterpillar days. Why cling to what you have outgrown? Triple heart emoji. So the butterfly does not mourn about its caterpillar days. Now, we don't know that for a fact, but we could assume it's happier to fly around rather than walk around. So why do we cling to things that we have outgrown? Right? The butterfly had outgrown its caterpillar-ness and has moved on, and we must too. Great analogy there. Thank you very much. And Larry says, improper spelling for what you were talking about earlier here. I just started listening to this club music from, I'm not sure, the Zena Diamond. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. Even if you did spell it correctly or incorrectly, I wouldn't be able to know how to pronounce it, but I hope I took a good stab at it. And good morning, Nana. Thanks for being on. I know you caught the show on demand yesterday, and grateful for that. We talked to Tom Price and Bob Johnston yesterday. It was a great conversation, and we talked about, obviously, the downtown and the plans that the city have for the downtown. And we'll get some local stories on that in a few seconds. But we also talked about roads in the city and why we have such bad roads. And it just comes down to they're not properly made in the first place. And so if we make them properly, they will last and we'll have less potholes. And good morning, Sylvia. Thanks for being on. And let's see here. We got Dave. Need to be here for the show. Oh, that's great. It's nice to be here. Yes, it is. Difference between need and nice, but my eyes aren't the greatest. So you got to see how small this writing is that I'm reading off my device that I use. It's incredible. It's a miracle that I'm able to even read it. So the band that you're talking about, or the artist, is from Germany. The club dance music. There's two shows on Earshot. One is today. It's Physics Fizzx. He hosts today's shows immediately following this show. On Tuesdays, he hosts Earshot Daily, a half an hour show right after this show on CKLU, and multiple radio stations across the country. But on Tuesday, it's Physics, and he does dance music. And then on Friday, it's Sean Savage. He does kind of dance music as well. Like whatever, there's a bunch of terms for the kind of music, but it's electronic, and you know, a lot of the songs are long and whatever, and just they start off with the beat and then just start adding stuff to it. So it's really kind of, you know, you can get into that music very easily. He's put it on in the background even. But yeah, so the two shows immediately following this show on Tuesday and Friday, they pretty much cover that genre. 8:46 this morning, at 8:46 p.m. on October the 19th, a magnitude 3.3 earthquake struck 37.7 kilometers west of Greater Sudbury near Chelmsford and Blizzard Valley. Yes, I did read that in the news. And I was driving at the time, and I was probably driving right by that area as well. Guess you don't really feel it when you're driving. So I missed the whole thing. Anybody else notice that Trudeau keeps popping up in the news lately? I think he can't stand not being in the spotlight or being in the headlines. That's Belinda. So, possibly, right? I mean, I guess him and Katy Perry is the latest thing. And then the fact that Pierre Poilievre made a comment that, you know, he should have been investigated at least interviewed and investigated for SNC-Lavalin. And then that trip he took to the island where it's a family friend. So those two things were ethics breaches in the least degree and criminal in the worst case. And so no one even interviewed him about those two incidents. So he called out the RCMP, Pierre Poilievre, that is, and said, you know, hey, what's going on with the RCMP? That's pretty incompetent. So they either are competent or they're covering it up. Now I'm putting words in his mouth by saying that, but that's the gist. And I'll add that's my take on it. So they're either incompetent or they're involved in a cover up to not go after Justin Trudeau for potentially breaking the law. Now we won't know because they didn't really investigate. They said they didn't have enough evidence. Well, you don't get evidence if you don't go out and interview people, right? So yeah, Belinda said it shook your house, the earthquake in Sudbury. Pat says SNC-Lavalin back in the news. Hope they get him this time. Yeah, good luck with that. I don't have much hope. There's a 2-tier standard. We've seen it for years and years and years. People are above the law. There's the law for you and me, and then the upper people in the world definitely are above the law. When was the last time you seen a president of a country or a high-level politician in a democratic country be arrested? And would you think that any of them had broken the law? And many of you Trump haters out there might say, yeah, well, he was arrested and charged, but he wasn't found guilty, right? So if you really want to talk about the law, even he got away with things, right? Even if you're anti-Trump, he's now the president and he's doing his thing. So people are above the law. So even no matter if you're right or left or anywhere in between, I hope you can agree with that statement. Do you notice, am I just the only one who notices that there's certain people above the law? And we see it in our own country all the time. And yeah, he kissed a girl and he liked it. That's a very funny. Belinda, that's Justin Trudeau with Katy Perry. And Monique, Grand Rising, yes, good morning to you. Betty says he's guilty. And I'm sure many other people agree with you. I can't say that I don't. Larry says, hopefully he's like a deer in the headlights, and when the lights come, he freezes. That would be a miracle. And Vin says, sorry for bombarding you with the at data center hydro construction or consumption videos. Oh, no problem. AI data center hydro consumption videos. Don't worry about it. You know what? I haven't even had a chance to see them yet. So I will when I get an opportunity today, and I just want to encourage people to send me videos. I don't always get a chance to see all of them because obviously I have a full-time job and I have volunteer responsibilities as well, and family and other responsibilities. So, but you know, like you, I'm busy, and but at the same time, you know, I'll see a good chunk of them, and when I have time, I look at all of them that are more recent. And Miles says the only Justin Trudeau in court was in Sudbury the other day for murder. Yeah, I guess shares the same name. That's interesting. Yeah, we'll never see Justin Trudeau being prosecuted, the Prime Minister. Anyways, the former Prime Minister. And Andrew, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Now we want to head in and get to our news stories of the day, the local ones, right? And speaking of court, we'll start off with this one coming from our news aggregator from CBC. Calls for overnight medical staff continue during day 2 of Sudbury jail inquest. The second day of testimony at the coroner's inquest into the 2021 death of a Wikwemkwong man at the Sudbury jail focused on gaps in medical staffing, both at the time of his death and today. So that'll be interesting to see, because the blame, won't be put on the people working there or anyone. Again, we talk about above the law. These people are the law. And that's where they dish out the punishments of the law, is in the courts, right? So we won't find anyone held accountable there. I can guarantee you that. But they'll have to come up with some kind of reason for the public as to why this particular person's life was ended while in custody, right? But they can't be at fault. So we got to find another way. It's because it's understaffed by nurses, is what they're saying now. When he had the problem, whatever was caused by whoever or whomever in the jail, they didn't have proper medical staff to deal with it after the fact. That's where they're going to probably point the blame. I have no idea. I just know people who need to be accountable are not held accountable. Well, that's interesting stuff. So you got the city of Sudbury wanting to fight back against the initiative by Doug Ford to kibosh speed cameras. So Greater Sudbury, part of pro speed camera push through AMO. The province tabled legislation on Monday, which, if ratified, would ban the use of municipal speed cameras throughout the province. So this city is pushing back. We need that money very badly, as we spend a lot of money. We misspend a lot of money. We spend money on things we shouldn't because we don't build things properly in the first place, and then have to spend all kinds of money to fix, I'm talking about the roads, to fix things afterwards. And so we need your money from speed cameras. We need to punish citizens more and take more of their money and raise their taxes at the same time. Now, I thought of this. You know how the hospital is also a place that just has no accountability whatsoever and just sucks money and is a big money black hole and is run very inefficiently because any large institution, I would say, especially in Canada, whether it's government, whether it's education, whether it's medical, it doesn't matter. Large institutions are bloated, and they're not like businesses where they care about balancing their budgets and making money. Like, they have ways. If they have a way of getting away with, if they have means of getting away with just getting endless money from taxpayers, they'll find a way. They won't balance their budgets. They won't be accountable. It just is what it is. So, you know how the hospital, they have the 50-50 draw. You know, they make millions and millions of dollars just from having this lottery. Well, I thought maybe the city should do the same thing. Instead of speed cameras, just have the 50-50 draw for the city. Because obviously we can't manage it to the point where we can balance our own budgets. So why don't we just full on get into it and have a 50-50 draw for the city? And then after that, I think banks need to do the same thing, because obviously they need to charge us for things unnecessarily all the time. They must need our money more than we do. So the banks should have 50-50 draws. They seem to make a lot of money, and people have no problem just giving over their money. You'd probably make more money on a 50-50 draw than you do from the speed cameras, and people wouldn't be upset because they'd gladly give you their money for the 50-50, right? There you go. You've another free idea. People would love to give them your money, give you their money for a 50-50 draw, because they have a chance of at least winning money back. And then that piggybacks on the idea I had recently was, if you are going to give tickets, then at least enter those tickets into a draw to win, almost like a 50-50 draw too. If you were going to do it, then enter those tickets into a draw. At least people go, well, at least my name's put into the draw. Maybe I'll win, $100,000 or something. But just get rid of the cameras altogether and just have people buy tickets. They seem to be more than happy to buy tickets. A lot of people put a lot of their money into tickets, and you'll make not tickets for speeding, but tickets to win the lottery. It's a ticket, but it's just a different kind, right? Downtown Sudbury applauds new police strategy for city's core. This is coming from Sudbury Star, right? The commitment to increase officer presence and enforce the law against illicit activities is what our members have been asking for. And that's the Downtown Sudbury group of businesses that, it's kind of like an association of downtown businesses. So they're applauding. And good morning, Mikey. Thanks for being on. So they're applauding this new initiative by police. But as CBC warns, well, the headline warns anyways, Sudbury businesses warn of powder keg if services are expanded in homelessness encampment. Following concerns from downtown businesses, the city and Sudbury police are promising to take a new approach to open drug use next week. They announced a 30-day plan to move those using drugs to the Energy Court parking lot of Lawrence Street, but businesses in that area are worried. So let's open this story. Now, what are they worried about? Okay. So one of the business owners says they have fires in garbage bins because they're trying to keep warm, obviously. This is the business owner from House of Broadloom. House of Broadloom carpet and flooring store just steps away from Energy Court parking lot, which in recent years has become the site of the homeless encampment. They say there's all kinds of, hazards going on there. We keep our doors locked often. We don't like having anybody here alone. And there's always a buddy system. We're always looking outside to make sure the area is clear. And She worries that the situation could get even worse within the city, and Greater Sudbury Police planning a new approach to drug use and homelessness. They announced the 30-day crackdown, as we talked about. Larissa Stewart is co-owner of the House of Broadloom, and she's worked the family business on Lawrence Street for the past 20 years. She goes on to say it's hard to be vocal about something of this nature without coming across as insensitive. However, we do feel as though we've been silenced in a way and unable to really let people know what's actually happening. I'm very empathetic to all these individuals, and I would love nothing more than to come up with a solution. And I wish I could snap my fingers and just poof, which a lot of us are in the same boat. She's speaking for not only her own business, her own self, a lot of business owners, but I think a lot of citizens of Sudbury. She said that when the safe drug consumption site known as The Spot was put in Energy Court several years ago, zero communication from the city. She had zero communication from the city, which was a big kick for businesses that had been part of the community for over 60 years. So I guess they weren't informed that this site was, The Spot was going to be going next to their business, you know? And again, as a business owner, I'd be like, wow, I pay a lot of taxes. I employ a lot of people. I provide a great service to the city. And the city then just doesn't even inform the people around them, okay, we're going to be doing this. Or what do you think? What's your input into this? Like, what do you think we could do to solve these problems? You know, business owners, you get business owners together. Now, that's what they do for a living, is solve problems. That's what 99% of businesses are, a solution that solves a problem. That's what their business is. Solutions to problems that you pay for. Right? You got a leaky faucet, that's a problem. Well, a plumber is a solution. Comes over and has a solution to your problem, and you pay him money for it. That's business at its fundamental core. Solutions to problems. You know, and that's what they do all the time. And not only their core thing they offer, whether it's a product or a service, in their business, they have to solve problems all the time, because they're unlike governments who have an endless stream of money. They have a limited amount of money. They have to balance their budget, or they go out of business or bankrupt, right? So it would be great if cities, municipalities can turn to businesses more for these answers to problems for the community, because they would do a great job. And I did have an idea for an association at one time. You know, it's great to have Downtown Sudbury. It's great to have CFIB, Canadian Federation of Independent Business. It's great to have Chamber of Commerce. But if they don't actually utilize their resources and knowledge, combined knowledge, to combat the problems of society, then the organizations aren't worth anything. So my idea was to present municipal problems in the form of voting, and it would come monthly. So you get an email and say, these are the issues. What do you feel about this? How should we handle these problems? So not only would you have multiple choice and yes or no answers that you can then poll, you know, so you can say 75% of local businesses in Sudbury say they agree or don't agree with this particular proposal or policy or the way the city's doing something. And then that's worth its weight, you know, so you know what the owners of businesses feel about these things. And then you also open it up, say, do you have any suggestions? So not only do you have ways to say 75% agree or disagree, you can say, this is what was proposed by this business. And then you can put it out to the rest of the businesses and say, what do you think about this suggestion by this one particular business? And then you can take the poll of that. 75% of businesses agree that we should do this suggestion from this one business owner, that this is what we should do. And so that carries some weight with it. And if it's publicized in a way like this, we're talking about it, and the city just doesn't listen to common sense and really great ideas, and they just do their own thing, well, then people can say the next election, we're gonna vote for people that actually want change in a good way, you know. And that's the way things should be done. Business owners are awesome. Now, they're not perfect and whatever, but hey, why is this something that we just don't do when they're all out there? And it's low-hanging fruit. The knowledge of business owners who find solutions to problems, because they can easily find solutions to city problems. I guarantee you. Now, some people are just above everyone else, and that is what it is, and that's our deep dive for today. You've heard about this No Kings movement? No Kings. Mainstream media covers it because it's coverable and they love this kind of thing. Many protesters protesting their common enemy with the government, Donald Trump, right? Mainly. But you have to ask yourself, who are behind protests? You know, I was talking to a particular client the other day who said that Americans were behind the Freedom Convoy. They were the ones who started it, kind of thing. And I was like, right-wing Americans, I guess. I said, well, really? How'd they do that? Well, they paid for it. I said, well, really? I thought our federal government seized the money that was donated. And he goes, oh, yeah, you're right. So then how did they perpetuate the convoy if all their money was taken by the federal government, which it was? Remember that? They took all the GoFundMe money because they deemed it as whatever they deemed it as. Wonder whatever happened to that money, by the way. So they just took the money. So he's like, yeah, so there's people behind movements. Some are very much organic. Some are grassroots, but there's been these the elite class of the world through secret service organizations have got the secret sauce on how to use what looks like grassroots movements to move society in a certain way. And so you have billionaires who want change in the world, who fund protests and movements. They've had it all the way back to the Rockefellers funding the feminist movement. You thought that was grassroots? No, the Rockefellers did that on purpose for many reasons. It breaks up the family, and that was the Rockefellers' idea because it makes them more money, and it makes the government more money too because you have more people out in the workforce working, more people to tax. Then you can increase taxes and inflation goes up because now you have two income earners in the home. Mom's not home. Traditionally, mom was home before this. So the kids have to go to daycares, go to schools, and then they become children of the state type of thing more than influenced by their own family. It's a Marxist principle that was put forward. And so these things are done in these ways by very powerful people who want to move society in a certain way. And Glenn Beck explains how this No Kings is no different and names the names behind it and all that. So here's Glenn Beck.
This movement is truly against billionaires and the powerful. Why is it funded by billionaires and the powerful? This is not about dismantling power. This is about rearranging power. So according to several sources, including Fox News, George Soros and his Open Society Action Fund granted $3 million to Indivisible. Now, this is one of the primary organizers of the No Kings protest. Soros' larger network, the Open Society Foundation, gave over $7.6 million to the same operation. We're almost at $11 million, but Soros is not alone. If you follow the funding trail, it leads to, what a surprise, the Arabella Network. Now you add in the Bill Gates Foundation, or the Ford Foundation, or here's my favorite, the Rockefeller Network. There is now this organization funded by billionaires, Riots Inc. and it is the permanent protest industrial complex. These tactics were developed by the CIA, and they're called color revolutions. And what they do is they flood the streets with, quote, organic protesters. They control the media narrative. They destabilize the existing system, and then they overthrow that system and install a new one. It is part of a longer game. Once you convince free people that freedom itself is the problem, they'll beg for a change. And that's when the kings, the real kings, step out from behind the curtain. When there's an emergency for your own good, you have to remain inside. You're not an essential worker. You can only shop at Home Depot. That's the sign of a king. Kings, they don't have to wear crowns. Usually kings just sign checks. Sometimes they fund revolutions. They are the ones writing the script for the resistance, for their own power and kingdoms.
Right? So there's these kind of paid for protests by the billionaires that have the look of organic protests and movements, right? But that doesn't mean there aren't legitimate protests and legitimate movements at the same time. As you can see in England, in the UK, we've talked about the digital ID that they want to bring in, right? And it's the bankers behind the digital ID. It's the government behind the digital ID. So there is a grassroots, regular, citizens fighting back against this digital ID. And so they're taking it to the streets and protesting the digital ID. And then so it looks like it's confusing to people because there's just a bunch of protests all over. So people just think, oh, a protest is a protest. But you have protests that are grassroots and are organic and are just everyday people fighting back, which I would argue that the trucker convoy in Canada was that. It was very organized, but it was organized mainly starting by truckers who their livelihood was at stake. And so they realized, you know what, we there's enough of us in this country and we could probably make a big statement. Look at our trucks. They're big to begin with. So they make a big statement. One little guy in a big truck, bring your big truck to Ottawa and make a statement, right? And so that was grassroots. Sure, people donated to it and whatever, but it wasn't done from elite people in high places of influence. It was done from the people. As these protests against digital ID are in Great Britain, but what are they doing with the digital ID? What is it for? Well, here this person kind of lays it out for you.
You will not believe what is happening in the United Kingdom right now. And I'm not talking about this protest. Yeah, there's a big protest. People are saying no to digital ID. But quietly, many different banking institutions in the United Kingdom just added a particular feature onto their app. And you will be absolutely shocked because people called this, oh, no big deal, a few decades ago, and now it's happening. Check this out. As of today, a United Kingdom bank starts monitoring carbon footprint of what you buy. NatWest has updated their banking app, so it will now monitor your carbon footprint based upon what you purchase. This will soon be tagged to your digital ID, no doubt. So check this out. Fun and leisure, 244 kilograms of CO2 emissions. They're calculating your emissions. And right now it's just like a fun thing for people to track, like, how much did I emit? But eventually it will be, excuse me, you have reached your daily quota. And you don't want to emit any more carbon than this because then we will freeze your account or something. Now I know right now this is happening all the way in the UK. It's not here yet, so everything's chill. But I can tell you, it all becomes first voluntary. Right now they're launching digital ID throughout many different states. And right now it is literally voluntary. But I can tell you, once 60, 70, 80% of people have voluntarily got the digital ID because there's some convenience or maybe there's a fee, like a discount you get if you have a digital ID. Eventually, once the percentage is high enough, it will become, hey, you have until this and this date to get a digital ID. This is the whole plan. It's a slow roll. We need to say no to this because otherwise we have some very unfortunate situations coming around the future. Comment your thoughts below and follow.
So again, right? What's the reason for the digital ID? I could see a lot of people pushing back against that. That takes away all of your rights. That's going into this dystopian future where, you have a digital ID. If you don't do a social credit score is attached to it with your carbon footprint along with it, And if you're at the grocery store and you've bought a steak and you go through the checkout, or even you just kind of getting your groceries as you go, you pay for them, put them in the cart as you go, because it's so convenient now with your digital ID. You can just put your phone at a product and put it in your cart and leave. Don't even need a cashier anymore. And it says, sorry, you can't buy that because there's too much carbon footprint associated with that, and you've already reached your limit. And then if they take it to another level and you've done something you shouldn't have done, or said something you shouldn't have done that the government doesn't like, they just turn you right off. They just shut you off. You don't exist anymore. You remember Harari? I forget his first name, but his last name's Harari. He's a Jewish gay man living in Toronto from Israel. Anyways, he's part of the WEF. You might have heard of that particular organization. They're, they influence policy and regulation in terms of anything to do with economy in the world. A bunch of unelected individuals who meet with our elected individuals, not in secret anymore. They used to, but they have a vision of the world, and this is their right-hand man here, talking out loud the things, maybe what's behind all of this stuff.
In order to collaborate on a large scale, you need to convince everybody to believe in the same story. What really the engine of history is stories. Mm-hmm. And they don't even need to be true. Right. Some of the most powerful stories in history were fictions. Right. But you need to get everybody, or at least a significant part of the population, to believe in the same story. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Science is not really, at least this is my view as a historian, science is not really about truth. It's about power. The real aim of science as a project, as an establishment, is not truth, it's power. Particular individuals, particular scientists may be very interested in the truth, personally. But as an institution, the real aim of science is power.
Those who own the data really own the future. Mm-hmm. We are reaching a point in human history that we have enough biological knowledge and we have enough computing power, and all you need in order to systematically hack millions of people is just the data. Mm-hmm. That to hack people means to know people better than they know themselves. Right. To somebody in San Francisco, in Beijing, knows you, knows more about you than you know about yourself, about your medical condition, about your mental weaknesses, things that you did 5 years ago, 20 years ago, you completely forgot about them, they know it. Right. This is something we never faced before. Not even the KGB could do it. Right. And we are already beginning to see the emergence of such total surveillance regimes in places like Xinjiang, in places like in my own home country in Israel. We have this big laboratory of surveillance called the occupied territories, where you have 2.5 million guinea pigs of how to completely survey and control a population with very few soldiers. I mean, in order to collaborate on a large scale, you need...
So it's a great thing, right? He's talking about this is great. This is where we're going. And it gave me the idea to start a segment on the show called Did They Really Say That Out Loud? And just and maybe even a whole show about, these elitists that just say these things out loud. I remember sharing a video with a friend of mine where Bill Gates said in a TED talk that he wanted to depopulate the world, just out loud. That was what's needed. Depopulation, and then all of his vaccination efforts are to go along with making the world healthy by depopulating it. And she goes, he didn't say that. Someone must have inserted that. And I said, oh yeah? Well, he said it here too. And he said it here too. And he said it there. So either he says it, and then he was demonstrating it on a graph one time, how he's going to depopulate the world, basically. And then we put him in charge of our health. So funny. So again, people don't realize that these elite people, what their plans are, and when they say something's for our own good, or it's going to give us some convenient tool or device or something, that it's all just to go in line with what their plans are for us. And I believe you me, it's not to make you and I any happier. And that's all the time we got for the show today. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate you guys being on. All your comments. Continue to stay aware, like, share, take care. We'll be back same time, same place on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Have a great day, everyone. God bless. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.